All right, guys. So, in a continuation of the AOC blaming Trump for the poor conditions in Puerto Rico right now, saga. It looks like Trump may have been right again. Okay, because people have criticized Trump, specifically the left, because they say that, hey, Trump is withholding aid from Puerto Rico because he's a bad person, orange man bad. He's not trying to help out people of color, right? That's essentially the argument. But Trump's argument, and Ben Carson's argument too, because it goes through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and saying, listen, Puerto Rico has a long history of corruption, right? The government being corrupt, not using the money for what it's supposed to be used for. And because of that, we're going to withhold some fund, right? We're going to withhold some aid. Now, we are allocating aid towards them, but, until they prove that they can use it correctly, because this is American taxpayer dollars, we're going to withhold a little bit, okay? And that was controversial, right? That was controversial. And a lot of people have blamed Trump to say that he's a bad person for doing that, okay? Including AOC, who, for whatever reason, used her grandmother as a political weapon against Trump, to once again blame Trump for the poor conditions of her grandma in Puerto Rico. Okay, she politicized her poor abuela. Okay, AOC did, but it looks like AOC might have been capping. Okay, or at the very least, her other family members don't necessarily agree with her statement in regards to blaming Trump, as the Daily Mail has done some journalism here, right? This is the Daily Mail again, so this might be take this with a grain of salt, but it says, exclusive, quote, "It's a problem here in Puerto Rico, not with Washington. AOC's aunt says Trump is not to blame for lack of aid to the struggling island after the congresswoman blamed the former president for damage to her grandmother's home." Whoo! That is basically a direct rebuttal to what AOC was saying in regards to blaming Trump, right? And it basically proves that Trump was right? His reasoning was right for why he was withholding aid, whether you like it or not. His reasoning was solid, okay? So let's read a little bit more here. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez's angry tweet about her grandmother's damaged home in Puerto Rico and accusations about, quote, blocked Hurricane Maria aid storm sparked a new storm, with one right-wing commentator starting a GoFundMe page that raised $104,000 to help her abuela. But the fiery congresswoman might not have the unequivocal support of one member of her family for her online outburst. AOC tweeted pictures of a grandma, Clotilda Rivera's ruined ceiling with the words, quote, "Just over a week ago, my abuela fell ill. I went to Puerto Rico to see her, my first time in a year, plus because of COVID. This is her home. Hurricane Maria hasn't arrived. Trump blocked relief for Puerto Rico. And for the record, my abuela is doing okay. It's not about us, but about what's happening to Puerto Ricans across the island." DailyMail.com tracked down 81-year-old Clotilda's home to a quiet community just outside the picturesque coastal city of Arecibo, located 40 miles west from capital San Juan on the island's beautiful north coast. And when we politely approached the two-story flat roof residence, we were met by a woman who told us empathetically after viewing AOC's tweets, "I am her aunt. We don't speak for the community." All right, so as you can see here are pictures of AOC and Puerto Rico, and I guess that may or may not be her home. Okay, it definitely looks like it. As you can see, there's some tarp up here, AOC's grandma's home, that is. The relative, who refused to give her name, added, quote, "We are private people. We don't talk about our family." Ironically for AOC, she also refused to blame former President Donald Trump for thousands of Hurricane Maria victims being unable to get money to repair shattered homes. However, she did express sympathy for those who still need help after the 2017 disaster, which damaged 90% of the island's 1.3 million dwellings and killed 2,975 people. The area where AOC's grandmother lives experienced some of the worst devastation on the island when the Category 5 storm swept through after making landfall on September 20. Her aunt said, quote, in this area, people need a lot of help. Many people who have needed it for the past 4 years and haven't had anything. Yet she did not pin that on Trump, adding, quote, it's a problem here in Puerto Rico with the administration and the distribution of help. It's not a problem with Washington. We had assistance and it didn't get to the people. Whew. Wow. So that's basically, again, like I said, a direct rebuttal to what AOC was saying about Trump, right? She said it's not a problem with Washington. We had assistance and it didn't get to the people, aka the Puerto Rican government was squandering it, okay? Or put it this way, they haven't been as efficient as they should be with that aid, right? And again, this is corroborated by the fact that, I mean, there has been protests and uproar in Puerto Rico because people have found warehouses full of supplies and aid that is supposed to be given to the people as relief. And again, the government's basically been hoarding it, right? This is stuff that's been covered by the mainstream media. And there has been uprisings and a protest in Puerto Rico because of it, because of the government's inability to actually get the aid to the people, because of the corruption. But yet you have AOC trying to blame Trump for that, when Trump's reasoning for withholding some aid, he didn't withhold all the aid. And then, like I said, AOC tries to make it seem like Trump withheld everything. No, they got some aid, okay? It seems that Trump's reasoning was correct, right? And that he was basically trying to say, hey, listen, we need a less corrupt Puerto Rican government, right, to get this money. Because otherwise, this is taxpayer dollars. We don't want to waste this stuff, okay? We don't have a problem giving aid where aid is due. Obviously, Puerto Rico needs help. I've said it before. Yes, the government definitely should help Puerto Rico. But it has to come with stipulations. We just can't be giving money to stuff without stipulations. That's how money gets wasted. That's the problem with our damn government right now. They just give out money and they don't have any stipulations on it. They don't know how it's going to be spent. They don't know any of that stuff. It's just being spent, right? And again, that's how you get a bunch of inefficient programs that don't work, that don't do anything. That's a waste of taxpayer dollars. And then every single month, money has to come out of our paychecks, right? My paycheck, your paycheck, to go and pay for this stuff. Overpaying in taxes because the government is wasteful, right? Again, this stuff is not hard, man. AOC had tweeted of her abuela, Spanish for grandmother. She had a place to go and to be cared for. What about the thousands of people who don't? Clotilda's house is in a quiet street about a quarter mile from the rolling waves of the Caribbean and a popular sandy beach enjoyed by locals and tourists. AOC tweeted photos appeared to show a second floor with a drooping ceiling. Outside, a set of iron stairs leads up to what appears to separate entrance of the upper level. A small black car was parked under cover beside the home, which is fronted by a large metal fence. It is not clear from my visit if the aunt lived in the house as well on the lower floor where she emerged. However, it does appear Clotilda is still living there. When we asked the relevant if we could speak to Clotilda about her circumstances, she went back into the house on the lower level. About 15 seconds later, she emerged saying she's not talking to anybody. From the tweets, it appears that the grandmother's ceiling has experienced water damage. Certainly, the flat roof has a blue tarp covering some of it. It's still a common sight on houses in Puerto Rico that have not been fully repaired from Maria damage. All right, so the rest of the article kind of details more specifics about, you know, the Puerto Rican people and what AOC's family, you know, Aunt is saying about, you know, what the real issues are in Puerto Rico in regards to the government and getting that aid. But I do want to touch a little bit on the whole Matt Walsh fundraiser thing for AOC, right? They raised over $100,000 for AOC's grandmother, in which AOC denied it, okay? They denied the actual aid. And, you know, it's funny because a lot of people on the right did not like that, right? They thought that, oh, you know, with X, Y, and Z causes going on out there, while conservatives raising money for AOC's grandma, right? Like, what's the point of doing this? And, you know, I respectively kind of disagree with that. One, because giving money for AOC's grandma to help her, right, through a crisis, that doesn't exclude you from giving money to other causes that you support. Okay, first and foremost. Second of all, this is how you play politics. This is how you play PR. And some people say that, oh, this is not going to work for the right. Well, what the right is currently doing in reference to PR ain't working either. So maybe you should try the left's tactics when it comes to this stuff, because AOC pulled this move when it came to Texas and raising money for a state that she didn't live in, raising millions of dollars. She pulled that move, and it was a highly effective move for PR purposes. So I think Matt Walsh was on point to do that, because what it shows is that even though AOC may be a political enemy, we're still going to raise money for her and show her that, hey, we do care, right? And that we are trying to help. Now, it put AOC in an awkward situation, because if she would have took it, then she would be acknowledging that, damn, these conservatives, these people that she has framed as racist, white supremacists, are actually trying to help her, right? Instead of, waiting on the government, they actually took the initiative to help her grandma, right? Her same grandma that she politicized, okay, to try to blame Trump. So her also denying it kind of shows that, okay, did you really need the help, or was it just politics? Well, we know it was just politics, and her grandma probably still does need help, okay? So, and that's why I think that in a situation like that, although GoFundMe gave the money back to Matt Walsh and all the people that donated, if I was them, I would have actually just donated it to a reliable, trustworthy Puerto Rican relief fund, right? I that's what I would have done. A Puerto Rico Hurricane Maria relief fund. That's what I would have done. Because then at that point, you could say, you know what? Even though AOC's grandma didn't accept it, we still donated it to the Puerto Rican people out of the kindness of our heart, right? It's not about politics with AOC. It's about showing that, conservatives can help and step up in situations like this, regardless of the skin color, regardless of where you're from. We are compassionate. And I think that would have been the chess move for them to follow up on AOC denying it. But I don't think that that's what they're going to do. Okay, so I'm a little disappointed, right? I like the initial move, but I think the closing chess move didn't hit the mark. But, it was a publicity stunt in the first place. So I kind of understand. Maybe they expected AOC not to accept the money. I don't know. But I guess what I'm saying is that, in a situation like this, I do think it's wrong for AOC to politicize her family like that. And it is very embarrassing for her aunt to come out here and say, yeah, Washington was not really the problem. Our government is actually messed up. Right. And it does kind of, again, support, the whole conservative argument about, hey, not waiting on the government, trying to do for yourself when you can, because, again, the government's not reliable. OK, a lot of these governments are corrupt. Right. Just like the U.S. government is corrupt. And, Trump low key in a kind of roundabout way, in a way that a lot of people didn't like. He low key kind of protested the corruption going on in Puerto Rico, the same corruption that is hurting the Puerto Rican people. It may have been a hard lesson, but it was a lesson nonetheless, in which now I think the Biden administration is releasing more aid, and the current governor of Puerto Rico is basically promising that, hey, all this stuff is going to get to the people, that, hey, we're going to do the right thing with it. So who knows? Maybe Trump in the long run has influenced the government to be better. I don't know. But I, again, just find it ironic how AOC's family member comes out and says, we don't speak for the community and we don't really talk about our family like that. But yet that's what AOC is doing on Twitter in front of the whole world. And, she basically saying that, hey, it's not Trump's fault. It's not Washington's fault. She didn't mention Trump by name, but she's basically implying that it's not Trump's fault. So it looks like AOC is wrong again. And even AOC's family is kind of backing Trump on this. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.